Today, our Parashat is Noach, and the commentary, the drash, the teaching is from Mauricio Quintero. And we've entitled it, Are You Building Your Ark? This week, my car's tire blew out when I was driving on the street. I hadn't changed one in years. And at the beginning, I choked a bit, not because I didn't know how to do it, how to change a tire, but because the lug nuts were so tight that I had to stand on the cross wrench, pull with all my strength until I was exhausted, and still nothing happened. The nuts didn't budge. After 30 minutes of fighting and struggling with it, I said, God, please help me. After taking out the spare tire, a man appeared out of nowhere. He was thin, maybe 30 pounds less than me, about 40 years old, and he said, do you need a jack? I told him, no thanks, I'm having problems with the lug nuts. I was surprised that the man took the wrench, climbed up, and took them off on the first try. My jaw dropped. How's that possible? And he told me at the end, if you need anything else, I have my food truck around the corner. We said goodbye, and I thanked him for his help. 15 minutes later, after I had replaced the tire, I was so surprised I couldn't find the man. He didn't exist. There was no food truck. I realized that it was an angel of the Lord. Noach means rest. It's such a beautiful name. And in Hebrew, it's a play on words. When we put the chet first and end with the nun, we get the word chen, which means grace. Psalms Tehillim 125 says, those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion. They shall never be removed, but shall remain forever. As the mountains are around Jerusalem, so the Lord is around his people from now and to eternity. For the rod of wickedness will not rest upon the lot of the righteous, because the righteous do not stretch out their hands toward wrongdoing. Be good, O Lord, to the good, and to the upright in their hearts. And those who turn to their crooked ways, may the Lord lead them away with the workers of iniquity, and may there be peace on Israel. This is the case of Noach, the only man who the Eternal says in the Torah, in chapter 6, verse 9 of Bereshit, Noach, ish tzadik, tamim haya b'dorotav, et ha'elohim hitchalech Noach. Noah was a righteous and innocent man in his generations, and Noah walked with God. And then the same expression is repeated in chapter 7, verse 1. Come you and all your house into the ark, for I have seen you righteous before me in this generation. Bo'ata v'kol betecha el hateva ki otcha ra'iti tzadik befanai hador hazeh. Thus Noah has the title of being tzaddik, not because of the men who followed him or because of the merit of any other man, but simply because the Eternal considered him to be righteous. This common man had managed to become a tzaddik in his generation because of his decisions. Being tzaddik, or righteous, comes from tzedakah, which implies doing what is just and right, like well-calibrated or just weights, which are called moznei tzedek in Leviticus 19:36. The tzaddik is as much a man as any other human being. He sleeps, he cries, he laughs, he's happy, he gets angry, he's frustrated, has leisure, and enjoys the company of others. For a tzaddik, everything that exists is a means to connect with an infinite God. A tzaddik is not a perfect man who is without blemish, who is more pure or Puritan, or one who does not make mistakes. In his case, Noah achieved a level of connection with his Creator, such that the Eternal rewarded him with being a second Adam, from whom all men on earth would descend today and would live a new beginning, a new era. Let's examine some simple facts concerning Noah's merits. First, he refrained from behavior that unleashed the wrath of God, such as corruption, promiscuity, sexual immorality, blasphemy, idolatry, and violence. In Hebrew, the word for violence is Hamas. According to our sages, the people continued their behavior against God during the 120 years of the construction of the ark, the Teva, referring to chapter 6:3. And the Lord said, "My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. Therefore his days shall be 120 years." Then we see God waited for another 7 days in chapter 7:4. "For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And every living substance that I have made, I will blot out from off the face of the earth." This is like Shiva, where again, according to our sages, the Eternal waited for the death of Methuselah, whose name means "his death shall send." Noah had to learn to trust that the Eternal had literally spoken to him, so that he blindly built the ark without knowing whether the predicted event would actually occur. He also had the merit that his family was saved with him. Thus the Eternal shut him in, as we read in chapter 7, verse 16, to protect him from the flood and to save all of them from destruction. We tend to generalize about a situation. How is it possible that God destroyed this entire generation? Where was his mercy? There are gray areas, but I can say for a fact that God did show his goodness toward men. They had 120 years plus the extra 7 days to reconsider and correct their corrupt actions, their behavior. But they didn't do it. Rather, when they saw that God's punishment was delayed, they increased their wickedness. And as it says in 1 Kepha or 1 Peter 3:20, to those who were disobedient long ago, while God waited patiently in the days of Noach during the construction of the ark, in which only a few people, that is 8, were delivered from the flood. We might say that the fruit of this new generation was not much better than the previous ones, as we see even today in our generation. Because, as the Eternal said in chapter 8:21, "For the intention of the heart of man is evil from his youth." So by this initial purification of the earth by the water of the floods, God continues to remind us through the rainbow of his attributes of judgment and mercy. How? When we see the rainbow, it is a sign, a reminder that God will not destroy the earth with water to the end of this world, to the end of this earth, and that we are presently within this period of 120 years. Now remember, in Hebrew thinking, 1 year is equal to a set period of time, not necessarily 360 days, 65 days. Here, God is giving humanity the opportunity to rectify our behavior, because the rainbow is also a reminder of divine judgment. That's referring to the flood. Noah knew how to wait upon God. That is the very essence of his name, which means he rested. And he trusted in the Eternal patiently while he cut the wood, while he convinced his family to accompany him in the process, while he placed the wood and the pitch, while he waited for the Eternal to send the animals, and while they entered the ark, he waited 120 years. And as fruit, he found grace and favor from the Eternal. Today, we live in a society corrupt with violence, sexual promiscuity with all kinds of aberrations, blasphemy of God, man believing that he is superior to the Eternal, where chesed, or compassion, is not viewed to be a habit of life. God tells each of us, build your ark. Where do we keep the Torah in the synagogues? In an ark. It's a very profound message. Will you and I trust in the Eternal? Will you and I decide not to contaminate ourselves and behave like the rest of society? Will you and I practice chesed? May the Eternal give us merit to wait and trust in him so that he may show us his salvation always. As a psalmist said, Adonai, be kind to the good and to those who are upright in their hearts. And Psalm 27:30 says, the righteous will inherit the earth and live on it forever. Shabbat Shalom.